Before we start the podcast, I wanted to let you know about an exciting free resource waiting for you. It is a free sample of The Academy. That's right. And it's designed to give you a sneak peek into the fun, effective way this program helps non-native learners of your level to improve their British English. In this free sample, you'll experience interactive lessons, vocabulary building tools, and the confidence boosting approach that hundreds of members are currently benefiting from. Just head to the britishenglishpodcast.com/academy or click the link in the show notes to grab it now. And regardless of whether you wanted to join the Academy or not, you'll be learning a ton just from this sample lesson. So, enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by Google Gemini. With the Gemini app, you can talk live and have a real-time conversation with an AI assistant. It's great for all kinds of things, like if you want to practice for an upcoming interview, ask for advice on things to do in a new city, or brainstorm creative ideas. And by the way, this script was actually read by Gemini. Download the Gemini app for iOS and Android today. Must be 18 plus to use Gemini Live.
Hello, and welcome to the British English Podcast, where I, your host, Charlie, often aim to take you through a culture-led conversation, helping you better understand British people, and at the same time, exposing you to some intermediate to advanced British English to level up your vocabulary. This episode is no exception, and the idea for this one was sparked by a visit I made to a town called Worcester, in a county called Worcestershire. Didn't really need to mention the county, but I want to highlight the pronunciation of this place. Yes, that's why I did it, because it's spelt rather like Worcester, but we pronounce it Worcester. And why was I there? Well, I was there because I've been living in London for over a year now, and as much as I've enjoyed my time in the big smoke, I'm entering a period of my life where I think a quieter, less chaotic environment is what I'm craving. So, as we say, I was doing a recce in Worcester to see if we liked the idea of moving there. And it was while I was walking up and down the high street in this small city that I came across a very large building, an impressive one that looked like a grand theatre with Roman columns and marble steps leading to the entrance. Think Gringotts Bank in Harry Potter, but, no goblins. And I was amazed to see what business was actually inside this building, which I'll get to. Yeah, I'll get to it later in this episode in an attempt to make this, as riveting as a limited series on Netflix. But this observation made me think, why? Why is this business in this grand building? And that led me to think about the development of the British High Street over the years, which in turn made me decide to do an episode on exactly that. So here is a walk down memory lane, as long as that lane is a high street, in the UK. Here we go. Did you know that this episode and this whole show has been built from the ground up to go hand in hand with my main membership program called The Academy? So if you like these episodes, but you're looking for a way to speed up your progress, find a structure to your learning, and be welcomed into a community of like-minded learners, then I highly recommend trying the free sample of The Academy. This free sample includes a taste of the interactive lessons, quizzes, and cultural insights that make learning British English fun and effective. It's the perfect way to see if The Academy is right for you at no cost. Grab it now at thebritishenglishpodcast.com/academy or find the link in the show notes.
The holidays are about spending time with your loved ones and creating magical memories that will last a lifetime. So whether it's family and friends you haven't seen in a while, or those who you see all the time, share holiday magic this season with an ice cold Coca-Cola. Copyright 2024, The Coca-Cola Company.
The question is, do we do it Benjamin Button style, where as he ages, he gets younger? And I'm talking about the high street. Or do we go back in time and work our way forward? Yeah, I think we should do the latter. So here comes the 70s, walking down the street. We've got Woolworths, C&A, BHS, Marks and Spencer's, WHSmith and Boots. These are all still household names because of their continued existence for many, many years. Some not with us now, but throughout the decades, they've been with us. They've been on the high street. They've been front and centre for the majority of the British Isles. Now, I'm assuming at this point, they're just names for you that will go in one ear and out the other. But if you just acknowledge them, then I reckon some of them will sink into your unconscious awareness, and you'll perhaps recognise them if and when you need to in the future. You know, walking down the street, oh, yeah, that's a WH Smith. Yeah, I recognise that. Yeah, Charlie was talking about that. So, yes, WH Smith. This is now a rather worldwide shop found in many airports. And it was your go-to for books and stationery back in the day. I used to go actually with my mum and sisters every year for back-to-school stationery. Yeah, it was great for that. And I remember buying a rubber in the shape of a soap once. Yeah, it was. I was so pleased with my purchase. And then I was playing with it while being dragged to, I think it would have been Tammy, probably. Tammy Girl. And Claire's Accessories. Yeah, Claire's Accessories. For the girls, my sisters, to do some clothes shopping and hair and makeup kind of accessories. And I remember I used to get very bored on my feet, so I'd sit down and play with my toys or my soap rubber then. But by the time I got to the car, I'd lost it on that trip. So I don't want to upset you, but it was a very emotional day for me, and the soap rubber as well. The soap, it's no fun being abandoned on the shop floor. Compare that to a promised life full of friction and rubbing up against pens and pencils in an Umbro pencil case. Gutting for the both of us. But WH Smith has managed to evolve through the decades, as has M&S. M&S, yes, which was originally started by a Polish refugee, Michael Marks, and a cashier who later joined him called Thomas Spencer, hence M&S, Marks and Spencer. And they started out by selling a variety of affordable everyday items, apparently like needlework supplies, household tools and simple clothing accessories, all at a single low price, before moving more towards clothing and particularly underwear. And that still holds up today, because if you want a good bra, you go to M&S. I mean, I don't do that, obviously, at the risk of being arrested. Not that it's an arrestable offence. If I wanted a good bra, I could buy one, right? Of course I can. I can go and buy a bra. It's just a social stigma and my own mental construct. I should quash that. I should do it as an experiment. Go and buy a bra from M&S. But yes, nowadays M&S is more than just a bra shop. It opened up a food section and is probably the most premium supermarket in the UK. Either that or Waitrose. But yeah, M&S was and is a staple part of the British high street shopping experience, along with Boots, which surprisingly doesn't sell a single pair of boots. Confusingly, it's a pharmacy that now sells a wide range of toiletries. I think the person that started it was called Boots or Boot. John Boot? Who's John? Yeah, it was John Boot, a herbalist in Nottingham. Right. He opened a small shop in Nottingham, and then after his death, his wife Mary and later their son Jesse Boot took over, focusing on providing affordable remedies and healthcare products to the working class. There we go. That's why it's called Boots. But yeah, it's like a wide range of toiletries, cosmetics. And in my childhood, they also developed your film. Yeah, your camera film. You know, the old school film roll that you'd go and get your 36 pictures developed and hope that the cashier did not look at them. They did. Of course they did. That would have been fun. That's like opening up somebody's iPhone and just having a look, isn't it? I mean, we complain about data now, but back then it was happening in broad daylight. So yeah, Boots, think makeup wipes, deodorant, and getting your prescription all under one roof. Again, I don't use makeup wipes, but yeah. Oh, another classic, Timpson. Yeah. This is a shoe repair, key cutting, wrist watch repair, and dry cleaning chain that I now have a huge appreciation for, because when I moved back to the UK in 2023, living in a rural-ish area, the closest supermarket had a Timpson on site. And I just inherited or found a vintage watch, suit, and formal shoes from my granddad. We had the same size shoes and the same body size. I mean, what are the chances? Genetics, that's what. But they all needed a bit of TLC. And the guy working at this Timpson became a big part of my life. He was amazing. And I think they've survived the test of time because of their attitude to business, which is, and this is what I saw in this person, which is why I'm talking about them now, their slogan is great service by great people. And he just was a great person. You know, when you meet somebody, you're like, you're great. Yeah, you're great. It's a real no-frills chain of shops, often placed to the side of a supermarket entrance these days. So yeah, if you're ever in the UK and need your shoes or watch fixed, keys cut or clothes dry cleaned, Timpson is a sure bet. I should have got every single shop to sponsor this episode. That would have been not possible because they'd never heard of me. Anyway, what else haven't we mentioned? Oh yeah, Woolworths. This was the go-to for toys, sweets, and I mean, a bit before my time, but records. Yeah, I suppose. Vinyl. I think it opened in the early 1900s and it grew to have like 800 stores across the UK. And I personally remember always enjoying the pick and mix at the front, which was a long column of buckets of sweets. And you'd pick from them to make your own paper bag of sweets, weigh it, and then realise you've gotten overexcited buying 2 of those snake gummies because they were hefty fellas. They were almost a kilo a snake. I'm exaggerating, but the problem was that you couldn't put them back because you'd picked them up. Yes, I used some plastic tongs, but it was, it's not the done thing. You've got to go and pay for them. Or in my case, my mum had to go and pay for them. But to the nation's surprise, Woolworths, insert dramatic music, they went bust in 2008. One of the biggest shops on the high street at the time was suddenly boarded up. And that leads me to the reason why I started this episode. You see, in Worcester, I was standing outside this grand building with a marble foyer that had once been a cinema or theatre. But do you know what the death knell was for many cinemas around the world? It arrogantly came knocking on the door of most households in the 50s. Can you guess? The television. The television. It's not French. I don't know why I said that. The TV, the telly, the goggle box, the idiot box. Very rude, the idiot box. Although I understand why, because people think that it makes us a bit more stupid. But I'm watching documentaries, mother. And here's a relevant nickname, the small screen. The small screen. So given I was born in the 90s, I'm putting my imagination to good work here. But imagine a world in which you could only see motion pictures at the local cinema. I'd be going all the bloody time. And so I imagine it would be a huge opportunity to open up a cinema and make a lot of money. So loads of people were doing that. In fact, let me check how many cinemas were open in the 40s. Apparently about 4,000 across the nation. And now I want to find out how many are open today. Yeah, okay. So as of the 80s, there were only about 1,000 across the nation. So yeah, what I just said makes sense. So it was a solid business venture. That's what I'm getting at, right? But yeah, the invention of the TV meant many people were less interested in going to the cinema, and thus all these grand buildings in the centre of town were boarded up. And then along came a business born from a game that can be traced back to the 16th century in Italy, called Lo Gioco del Lotto d'Italia. Maybe pronounced like that. All right, this got twisted and turned into a game called Beano, where people would use dried beans to mark their game cards with numbers on them. And when all of their numbers had been called out, they'd shout, Beano, until one lady supposedly shouted bingo instead. And this slip of the tongue turned into the name of the game we know today, called bingo. And
we have one more act for you this evening. I don't even need to say his name. Mr. Bob Dylan.
From the director of Walk the Line and Ford vs. Ferrari.
If anyone is going to hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
And starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
Once upon a time, you're just so fine.
Inspired by the true story.
I want to know which side he's on.
This Christmas.
They just want me singing Blowing in the Wind for the rest of my life.
Bobby, what do you want to be?
Whatever it is they don't want me to be.
He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
He's our Elvis.
With no direction.
Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro.
Make some noise, BD. Track some mud on the carpet.
A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17 and admitted without parent.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the new generative AI assistant from AWS. Many tasks can make business slow, like wading through mud. Help! Luckily, there's a faster, easier, less messy choice. Amazon Q can securely understand your business data to help you streamline tasks, like summarizing quarterly results or doing complex analyses in no time. Q got this. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
if you've never heard of bingo, it's what I just kind of said. It's a game where players have cards covered in numbers, and a caller in the room randomly announces numbers, and players mark any of those numbers on their card that they have, because each card has a combination of different numbers on them. And the first player to mark off a specific pattern of numbers shouts bingo, and they win. They win the game. And it's all about luck and the excitement of waiting for your numbers to be called. And this game made its way back over to Britain in the mid-20th century, arriving just as the post-war population craved simple, affordable entertainment and a social connection, perhaps. And from the 60s onwards, bingo halls sprang up in cities and towns across the UK, often taking over grand old cinemas and theatres whose film audiences had dwindled in the face of television's rise. And I kind of get it. Their lavish interiors and central locations made these venues ideal spots for the booming bingo phenomenon. But for my generation, this game is a bit of a joke. I even remember sarcastically suggesting to take a girl on a first date to a bingo parlour. And despite not winning that night, that date ended up being the last first date I ever went on, because that person was Stacey, my wife. Oh, cute, right? But yeah, my generation sees this game as an old person's game. And to be honest, it is. It was hugely popular for the silent generation and early boomers. But after online games took hold of the world in the 80s, 90s, noughties, etc., it's not exactly the most stimulating game in comparison, is it? And yet, these bingo parlours can still be found here and there in such venues. I mean, take where I am in London right now, Tooting. The biggest, grandest building in the area is a bingo venue. But in my eyes, bingo halls and betting shops, they often attract a slightly less fortunate demographic. I mean, I see a lot of homeless people sleeping on those marble steps in the bingo in Tooting. I've recently actually heard that betting shops deliberately put themselves in front of those who are struggling financially or like at that end of town because they offer that thrill and escapism that somebody who's less fortunate is able to get a kick out of. So yeah, it's kind of got a bit of a bad rap. It's not really in the well-to-do part of town, I would say, anymore. I can't imagine there's many in Chelsea or West Kensington or Fulham. No, I can't imagine that at all. But yeah, just as cinemas thrived and dwindled, bingo thrived and dwindled. And that's something I'd like to take a moment to appreciate. Many people have nostalgia for the past, but the past, really, it's a period of our lives that we often use as a reference point, but the only constant in life is change. That is something that I really like to remind myself of. The only constant in life is change. And as they say, when one door closes, another opens. When one cinema door closes, another bingo parlour door opens. When one bingo parlour door closes, an X Factor auditorium opens up. I don't know what they will specifically turn into. But my point is, while many businesses have left the high street since the birth of the internet, I'd like to think it's giving space for a new era on the high street. Because I've heard many fear-mongering journalists say the high street is dead. It's not what it was. It's dead. The high street's gone. But I'd like to think that it's just changing. It's just changing. Right now, I'd say it's bringing back sensory businesses. Bakeries are booming. Cafe culture is being reborn. And, vape shops are all the rage. No, I'm joking. I think I despise the look of most of those tacky. They're tacky. Even if you like to vape, I'm sure you can agree that they look tacky, those shops. But restaurants are being given centre stage, as are smaller independent fitness and wellness studios, barbers and hair salons, cocktail bars, and maybe even small comedy clubs. So I guess for me, the take home for today's episode is that if we look back far enough, we can see the reason why things are the way they are. I will now no longer look at a bingo hall in an impressive building the same way that I did before researching this. And it's a good reminder that just because something seems to be a constant, it shouldn't be taken for granted. Because, as I said, the only constant is change. So here's to embracing change. Yeah, let's leave it there. Here's to embracing change. All right, thank you very much for getting to the end of this episode with me, Charlie, your host of this show. In every episode, I aim to converse around something culturally interesting whilst exposing you to interesting language for you to level up your vocabulary and your speaking skills in English. Now, the free version of the episode exposes you to everything. But if you wanted learning resources to help you learn the vocabulary that you're being exposed to, then you'll want to join the premium podcast that gives you extended glossaries, manually edited transcripts, and flashcards. And then if you wanted to take that learning and turn it into your active vocabulary, then we've got the Academy, where we take those basic resources and then extend them into a mini course for every episode using video or audio vocab review lessons, interactive quizzes, and then going to a group Zoom class with myself or another native British English teacher, helping you understand the nuances around the vocabulary. So if you want to self-study, go for the premium podcast. And if you want to level up quicker, then check out the Academy. Both links are in the show notes, or head over to thebritishenglishpodcast.com. All right, that's all for today. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, let's embrace change, shall we? And that change, well, that could be you leveling up your English. You've been listening to me, Charlie, on the British English Podcast. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Before you go, I want to remind you to try that free sample of the Academy. This exclusive resource will give you a first-hand experience of the interactive lessons, live feedback, and cultural immersion that our members truly love. Don't miss this opportunity to level up your British English for free, as the free sample is a full lesson in itself. So you'll learn loads and see if you like what I have to offer. To do so, visit thebritishenglishpodcast.com/academy or click the link in the show notes to get started.